Welcome to another CEO Wisdom Pod. We have Victor Cho with us today for round two. He's an internet CEO and advisor board member for stakeholder focus, pushing companies to be accountable to society at large. I think we talked about that last time you were on the pod, Victor. So CEO at Emovid. We're going to talk about AI, what's going on in the current market, and how to take a startup from zero to one, really. This podcast is brought to you by podper.com. If you want to start your own podcast, go to our website. We have a free ebook there. We also have a masterclass for those that want to accelerate their podcast monetization knowledge, aka getting paid by YouTube AdSense, sponsors, and generating leads off a podcast. Victor, welcome to the pod. Tell me a bit more about yourself and what you're up to nowadays.
Hey Charles, hey, good to see you again. It's great to be here. Yeah, no, so I think since we chatted last, I've been, as you mentioned, been taking this startup from in that 0 to 1 journey, which is always a super exciting one. So we've taken our we call it multimodal messaging. So it's a combination of video, audio, AI, really changing the way that people communicate in business. But that's gone from a product concept into a prototype, into getting it in front of several thousand people, into going live and taking revenue, all in the last year. So it's been a crazy wild ride. Although that while the market, of course, right, the AI market, the technology market is probably moving faster than it has at any point in time since the early internet, which sadly I'm old enough to remember in depth, but a lot of parallels actually to what's happening now.
And talking about revenue, how did you get these first lines, and how much in revenue is it enough to bootstrap, or are you going to raise funds for that one?
So no, we'll definitely be raising round. We're actually in the very final stages of closing out our seed round, right? That's actually going to be closing imminently, which is exciting. Down to like the last 5% of that. Um, no, in terms of how we got these clients, a lot of this is it's a combination of and the good news is, there's this concept in startups of like the friends of the founder. Like a lot of the early revenue tends to be friends of founder, and the good news is that this is not that, because I've actually advised enough startups to know that you get this, in some ways, false signal when you tap all of your networks, because like they like you and they want to make you feel good, and so then they buy, and then you're like, oh, this is all wonderful, and then you actually try to go out into market, and it's like, no, 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 that's all because it was just friends of founder. So we actually have a sales and revenue lead in place. We're actually spending a time like $5,000 a month, right, in acquisition dollars, and we're bringing in people that don't know us and converting them right through a standard pipeline flow right now, kind of high touch right now, into converting customers.
And what are your priorities for 2025?
For 2025, it's pretty simple. We're gonna kind of finish out this funding round, and then we're moving into what I call the PLG, the product led growth, and the product market fit stage of the business. Right. So we've built a product that people are using, that love us. We have probably a 90 net promoter, which is something that I'm always passionate about. It's like, how do you build something that people love? And so now it's literally, okay, what are the segments where that's going to resonate the most? What are the acquisition channels that are going to allow us to scale from where which is effectively starting out to the first million, then the next 10 million, right? It's putting in all of those channels and systems.
And has the product vision pivoted since you started?
It's maybe for good or for bad, the high level vision of what we're building hasn't changed. So and for those of you that didn't see that first or hear the first video, so give you a quick background in Emovid. The way we communicate in business hasn't fundamentally changed for like the last 10 years in terms of digital assets, right? We spend a huge amount of time in email still in business. There's 5 billion messages sent an hour, and we do things like Zoom. And then within your company, there's Slack, right? But you're not using Slack to build your outbound business relationships, and that's where we're focused. So in terms of those, right, kind of relationship building communications, it's kind of email and Zoom, and you can almost think of Emovid as a beautiful baby that happened if you were to put those things together. So it's all of the relationship building capability that comes with video, right, and audio, but asynchronously delivered, right, on your own time in the way that you use email. So we call it multimodal because it's not just, when we first started, maybe to answer your question, when we first started out, we were toying around with this idea of like, oh, are we video messaging for business? And the feedback we got from our customers was, you guys are like, this is so much more, right? Like there's a message and I can listen to it in my car, but then I get this AI summary, right? And so it's the language we've netted out to as we went to product launch is multimodal, right? We're the world's first multimodal communication platform for business. And so, but the core ethos, which is let's one, build that, and then two, let's use that as a way to make sure that we have authentic communication in the world, right? We don't, it's AI enhanced, right? So the AI is maybe helping you with here's some ideas of what to say, but you're still the one authentically communicating, and then we verify that. And that vision hasn't changed at all. We're still delivering on like step one of 10 steps of that vision.
Okay, so I can send a video in reply. Isn't like, aren't companies already doing that, like Vidyard and so forth? And second, isn't annoying for the receiver to start a video when I can diagonal read something like 3 seconds?
So a lot of the early video communication tools were around like, let me broadcast something, like let me share my 20-minute sales pitch to you, right? So you can see it easily. So, and those have a use case. Nobody has built the bidirectional communication platform, right? So it's very different from that perspective, right? Anything you can do with email, you can do on our platform, right? So like I could send you an Emovid and you could be like, hey, this is cool. Let's rope in our friend, right? We could rope in our friend. Now we got a three-way, right? You can do it a BCC mode, right? I could send it to 50,000 people and have a bunch of private conversations coming back. So very different to build a communication system versus a broadcast system, number one. And then number two, this is where multimodality comes in. Like now when you get the message, you get the choice of consumption, right? So if it's an important message where my emotion and tone, where you're like, I kind of want to see what Victor's like, what does he really mean when he says that? Then you can, of course, watch it, right? Listen to it. But it also comes with a complete full transcript. So, and with a summary and action items and all the things that AI can finally do. And this is why we call this multimodal, right? So you actually get a better communication package as a recipient because it's like, well, I can go through the entire stack, all the way from skimming to summary to all of the depth of the emotion. That's never been possible before.
Yeah, I like that. Interesting. So, who would be your core customers for this? Because I see customer success here. There's use cases for that,
Yeah.
marketing, but precisely as a founder and a CEO, why would I use that?
Yeah, so our target, I'll call it a group or function within a company because it's actually less about your specific type of company and what the folks in your company are doing. It's all about you have people in your company whose core value add is to, and maybe it's 100% of their job, maybe it's 25% of their job, but they are building outbound and external relationships and connections, either with customers, shareholders, right? Investors, right? Kind of your key business stakeholders, where stronger relationships matter. That's where this idea of let's get, we call it getting FaceTime on your own time, right? So this is, you and I are building a cool kind of relationship, just having this right bidirectional real-time conversation. Now imagine you can, split that out times 1,000, right? Using a tool that lets you do that on your own time. So it's really, biz dev teams, right? Sales teams, not for prospecting, but the minute you have some kind of ongoing discussion, it is basically the way I describe it to people. It's like you have a magic wand now where, as opposed to sending someone an email, which they might not read, or they're not even going to know if it's you writing it, right? Instead of that, you can basically put yourself authentically in the room, right? And you can start building that dopamine connection with them. Yeah.
Interesting. So, how many paid customers for now?
So we're still early. We've got hundreds of paying seats coming in across like kind of our first customer set, and then we've got thousands of folks that we actually opened it up to and have experienced it in our first phase when we launched kind of pre-revenue.
Once you raise the next round, where would you invest that money?
Predominantly sales and marketing, right? It's going to be in channel, figuring out kind of where these segments are, what subsegments are most promising. And also there's a bunch of technology which is not public right now, but will be coming out. That's actually kind of our secret sauce in many ways. So we've got a whole generative AI wave coming that I can't talk about, unfortunately. But hopefully here in the next quarter, we can do another one.
What
I
would be
can
the
show you some
function
magic.
of that Gen AI?
Without sharing too much, I will say I could describe it this way. There is a psychology to some people that makes them a little hesitant to record themselves, and we're going to actually solve
Huh.
that problem for the first time ever.
What are your thoughts on AI avatars? Like, what if I would be an AI avatar on this podcast and Charles' voice, Charles' knowledge, Charles' everything, but just not me? Would you actually record the pod and see value into this?
No, if you had called me and said, "Hey, I'm going to do a AI-driven video," I'd be like, "Nope." And the reason is that is literally the thing that we're fighting in the world. Is there's a whole wave of AI enhanced or AI modified or AI replaced communication that is going to come. That and this is kind of a deep philosophical belief everyone on the team has. Like, we don't think that's a good way for people to communicate. Like, we think it's incredibly important that we maintain authenticity in our connections, in our key connections, right? So we're not naive, right? I firmly believe there are huge chunks of business communications that are very inefficient and unnecessary, right? So you and I figuring out when to do a podcast slot, right? That to a large degree, that's gone into a Calendly flow now. That can go to AIs talking to AIs, right, on a transactional nature. That's great. But at the point where you need to build the actual relationship, like that has to be me looking at you, right, in the eye, either real time or asynchronously, right? My true voice and all my inflections. And the thing that all of my, I call it my tech bros in Silicon Valley that are building some of this stuff that they miss is you'll never get to authenticity with an AI model because you don't have all of the data to make it authentic, right? Like how I talk to you is different from how I talk to my wife. Could be the same words, right? It could be like, "Hey, great to see you." I'm going to say that completely. I'm going to look completely differently. Like there's no way that AI will know how to do that ever, right? You have to authentically communicate that in the moment.
Yeah, I think it will through Neuralink and or like a system that would generate emotion just like us, right? That can be copied and recreated, but does it lose its magic? Yes, just
Yeah.
us knowing that it's not real.
Knowing
Would
that
you
it's not real
accept?
and yeah, and not having the context, right? So even it's funny, like how I say hello to you, same words, right? Very different from how I say hello to someone else. But even that same, I'll use my wife as an example. Like how I say hello to her is different based on the interaction context we've just had, the time of day, right? What was the last interaction point, right? Was it good? Was it bad, right? And so no LLM will ever know how to authentically pull that out of you. It's only here in your biological LLM, which is why we require you to say what it is you're trying to say to the person. And when you get it, you're like, that was Victor. And that was literally Victor communicating to me authentically in the moment with all of our context, with all of our history, right? That's our core position, that is super important in the world.
But it's interesting that people talk about authenticity nowadays and they elect Donald Trump, right? Like, is that to me is like a complete contradiction. Like
Yeah.
the man is like a light walking on two legs, and
Hmm.
I think it's so ironic. I think humans are multifaceted, right? They can
Yeah.
have multiple opinions in
Yeah.
various scenarios, but it feels that we are in an inflection in which we can decide if we're going for truth or for falsehoods nowadays,
Hmm.
and that we're not choosing the truth, which is very sad. What are your thoughts on this and humanity, where it's going right now, the US
Yeah.
specifically?
No, no, I totally agree. So, independent of what your political leaning is, and I'm very in the middle, right? I've actually voted on either side of the aisle over my life. Yeah, I think you hit on something key, which is Donald Trump is a showman, and he is not off. He is. It's actually funny. Some people think of him as very authentic, but at a
Well, he
high
says
level, right?
everything he thinks, but what he thinks is not true. So
Yeah,
that's the dichotomy
yeah.
here.
No, for sure. But there's also, I think a lot of people would say like it's also not authentic what he's saying, right? He's saying what he just wants to say to get the outcome that he wants, right?
No,
So
he just doesn't realize he's like that
yeah,
far in the funnel, the capitalism funnel, that he is unchangeable and he cannot go back. It will also destroy his identity, right?
Yeah.
Which is a can't you can't go that way as a human being. As soon
Yeah.
as you destroy your identity, it's psychosis, it's chaos, it's
Yeah.
you losing yourself. So
Yeah,
anyway,
I think of it in in some ways the inverse, right? Like, so what makes me sad is I feel like our presidential candidates should be beacons of what we aspire to be, right? They
yeah,
should
and
be
the
beacons
American
of
values, right? Like
exactly integrity and truth and
freedom,
compassion, right? And yeah, we're sorely lacking from that perspective.
respecting like people with different backgrounds, bringing that quote on, I mean, not diversity the woke way, because I think the woke mob has sort of taken over, but they've been
Yep.
shut down real bad in the last year or two. That is one, no need to fight that war anymore, but we need diversity not done the bullshit way, diversity done the real way, the American way, right? Which is how America was built. The American dream. I'm an immigrant. I can come
Yeah.
here and I can fulfill my dreams, which is amazing. We sort of lost that anyway. Um, would you accept a podcast if it was the AI avatar of like Richard Branson or Mark Cuban?
No, I don't think so.
Neither. If they
No.
invited you, if the intention is there, and you would talk with the most accurate version of them, meaning that you couldn't get time with these mavericks, but you could
No,
get time with their AI avatars, would you say yes?
that's a super interesting one. So there's part of me which is like, okay, if that is just the channel and that is the mechanism, right, to have a conversation or get my message out into the channel, um, then possibly. But what I would end up doing in that channel, which is why I would have to think about it deeply, is bashing how horrible it is for this to be an AI conversation. But I might take
I
it just
think it'd
because,
be amazing. I'd even pay for that. Like if Rich Branson would deploy his AI, and I don't know, it's like $50 per hour to talk
yeah,
with the almost exact same version of as Rich Branson, because these folks they put content, right?
yeah.
But you never really know how really they are and how they would react to your specific problem.
No, but
And
my core contention is that that model will not be. If you were to have the same conversation and have like a Branson say those words, and you look at it side by side, it's gonna look and feel drastically different. In the moment, the AI might fool you into thinking like, oh yeah, this feels right, but what I'm fighting is like that's actually not the authentic person. So I would much rather have, if someone were to do that, I would say like create a fake avatar of someone who doesn't exist, right? Make it the Branson interviewer who has ingested all of the content, but let's not go out and pretend to put ourselves into these avatars when they are shells of who we are in terms of how we communicate, which will be the case basically forever, from my perspective.
huh. That's interesting, yeah, because I think they will get very good and even better than humans at some point online. And even better than humans, that means that they wouldn't be these humans anymore, which is another
Yeah.
interesting question, right? Or no, it would be like their future version, wouldn't it? Like since I keep growing and getting better on a daily basis, wouldn't it be nice to speak to a future version of myself? And run like
Mm.
simulations of where I would end up mentally.
I don't know. Is that you at that point in time? I guess it's like future digital you that's not quite you.
Well, I think it could. I mean, it's very hard to predict reality and where it will be,
Yeah,
right? It's the hardest thing ever to calculate the future. But a guy like me that's always online, that publishes all of its thoughts, an AI could calculate like my trajectory, how I've grown, and potentially where I could end up. And maybe I would use that to see like, okay, this is not where I want to go, right? This route is dangerous. Maybe I should stop on that
yeah.
thesis.
Hmm. There's a good Black Mirror episode in there.
Yeah,
Like
maybe
the
I'll reach
algorithmic
out to the.
prediction of the person you're going to become, yeah, based on your trajectory and whether you like it. That's cool. That's a cool story in there.
I want to double click on the authenticity and why it's important,
Yeah,
right? Because I think there's place for abuse as well.
yeah,
Why are you so keen on, yeah, keeping touch with the actual human version of
yeah.
yourself? And what is the system to make sure that we don't lose track of that? Is it like the orb of Sam Altman that validates through biometrics your authenticity?
Yeah, so maybe I'll do the second part first and then go back to the first part of the question. So because our system, we control the full tech stack, um, we know that you have recorded a video on your email account or your phone number, whatever it is, right? And so kind of our layer one of authenticity is, okay, unless someone's hacked your transports, then you know that this message is coming from that person. Now, over time, we are absolutely going to be adding some really interesting, more sophisticated versions of that to be sure you can't even hack that system. Because if you are a really good hacker, of course you could do that. So that's in our pipeline for sure, right? In terms of making sure that you are who you say you are. Um, the end result will be what's going to be super important for us is when you get an Emovid message or recording and our little seal comes up, which is patented now, and it says like, okay, here's exactly what has been done to this asset, this recording. It's like, okay, the background's been blurred, or maybe a little bit of face smoothing has been applied, but like this is Charles, like feel good. And this is he said these words. This isn't an AI filling in for him. This is not an avatar. I think we will be one of the bastions of, okay, I feel good about that message. Now, why is that important to me? It comes down to, I think, a pretty simple truth, which I really came to appreciate when I was running Evite. So before this, I was the CEO at Evite, which brought people together in person, right? Billions of people came together over the course of its life, right, to have parties. And as part of that role, I got much deeper into the science of connection, right? What makes us human? What gives us happiness? And it seems so very simple, but at a high level, if I had to degrade all my years of research, it's we are social creatures at our deepest core, and one of the most important things that we can do for our mental health and our longevity and our legacy is to build authentic connections with other human beings and spend time with them. And so anything in my mind, so that's why I love Diva, that's why I love what we're doing here, right? Anything that could be in service to creating that authentic bond is positive. Anything that is a shell of that, an artificial replacement. So it's one reason I just hate social media in its current
Hmm.
incarnation, or many aspects of it, because it's
Mhm.
it's giving people that dopamine um, fakeness signal. It's giving them a signal that makes them feel connected, but the reality is they are not. They're not building right what are deep connections, and you see the impacts of that right in terms of mental health and young teen issues. So yeah, that's okay. The long answer to your question is we have to maintain that connection as humans with other human beings. And so technology that does that, yes. Technology that fools you into trying to feel it, not good.
Yeah, I very much agree with that. That's how society was built, and I think that's how it will scale. If you want to lose civilization, you sort of double click, keep on doing what we're doing and scale the current ways that the world is going into right now, like with the current administrations. I think it's very threatening for the future of humanity, what's happening right now.
That's right.
Um, Now, I still think that robots will have rights and AIs. There can be good AIs if they can sort of merge with biometrics and become us and us them. I think it's an extension of us. So let's see. Let's see where that brings us. Do you believe like why don't you start your own podcast as well? Like, what's your opinion on getting to know people and different opinions?
No, once the kind of our flywheel starts to move here within a Movid, I don't know whether it's a podcast or some other mechanism. No, that's a key thing. I'll be spending more and more of my time, I think, trying to get this message out around some of these key messages of how do you maintain authenticity? How do you operate with as a tech entrepreneur and an exec with the right mindset towards society? I think we talked about this last time, this idea of the fourth stakeholder society, right? In my framework, which is as as a as a business citizen, and a very important term in my mind, like you need to balance all those things. And so
Yeah,
I see so many companies not doing that, so many leaders not doing that. So no, yeah, at that
I'm
point,
really
I'd like to pick
bullish
the
on
brain
that
on how to do
shift.
it.
I think it's happening. I think it's happening. I think people are letting go of business as usual, right? It's like all in for capitalism. The rest will just figure out itself,
Yeah.
right? You'll pick up the pieces after
Yeah.
me.
No.
I think that's changing, not from the top, from the current administration, of course. It's the opposite of that, but from the open source movement, especially in Silicon Valley, I think people are all in with that. It's like
Yeah.
more than business. It's
Yes.
also the social aspect of it and giving out your opinions and so forth, and also inviting dialogue and conversations and opinions, right?
Yeah.
I think that scales for sure. Have you tried DeepSeek? What I like about it's like a Chat GPT, right? The China competitor right now that is all over the news because they developed apparently similar levels of technology to Chat GPT. I'm not seeing that so far, but still, what's cool about it is that once you ask it a question, it shows its thinking, right? How it got to this response. And I think this is what's missing out there in technology is like, okay, this person posted this on social media. Why? What's the background to that? What do they want to achieve, right? What are their goals? I think that would be so nice. I don't know, a Chrome extension that would go on that LinkedIn post and be like, this person posted that for XYZ reasons. That's
Yeah.
the state of mind they're in right now. I think us humans, especially smart humans, we need to understand the why behind things, and that would bring an extra degree of transparency out there.
That's another cool product idea. I'm a
It
product guy, so
wouldn't
I'm always
make
thinking
a
about
lot of
products.
money, but
No, no, no. Imagine a browser extension that anything you read online, right? Whether it's a tweet,
yeah,
right? You could basically highlight it and basically do the equivalent of a very objective fact check around what
yeah,
that is, which
because
is like cool.
Twitter's fact check sort of sucks. I think it's
Oh,
like
no.
managed by Muskians, you know. So it will be biased. It's
Yeah.
like, oh, this post is not good because of XYZ. But what if an AI? I'm so bullish on AI. I love AI. It's like people are scared of it, but
Oh no, I agree.
an objective AI, which is
Yes.
hard to build, right? But it would give us the background. I'm not sure how we would monetize that.
Yeah. No, I love that. Like, yeah, here's a comment. Here's why I think that person probably said that. Here's their leaning in the past. Here's what I, as the AI, can find in terms of actual fact to support or not support it. Right. Here's my relative ranking of, yeah, whether I think this is just propaganda or truth or maybe truth or half truth. Super interesting. No, I
Yeah.
love that. Hopefully someone is building that. That is the kind of positive use of AI, right? That's going to help us as a society.
I always love our convos, Victor. Where can people find out more about you?
Emovid, simple. Come sign up. We're taking customers. See the value of multimodal. It's super easy. We have a risk-free trial. That's www.emovid.com. And people can read all about me, read my writings around kind of stakeholder balance. That's at Victor Cho, VictorCho.com.
Victor Cho and Charles Gourmet for another